Hello, and welcome to another effective episode, the channel where we explore meaningful ideas in simple and powerful English. I'm really happy you're here with me today. If you're someone who wants to improve your English and grow as a thinker and communicator, you're in the right place. Every episode on this channel is designed to help you build your fluency while learning something valuable for your life. Today's topic is one that I believe is more important now than ever: creative problem solving. Just hearing those words, creative and problem solving, you might think, wait, I'm not a creative person. Or, that sounds like something for artists or inventors. But trust me, this topic is for everyone. Whether you're a student, a parent, an employee, or even running your own business, creative problem solving is something you use every day, even if you don't realize it. Think about it. Life isn't always smooth or predictable. Things go wrong. Plans change. We get stuck. And in these moments, what helps us move forward isn't always the rules we've learned or the things we already know. What helps us is our ability to think in new ways, to stay flexible, to ask better questions, and to find different paths when the usual one is blocked. That's what creative problem solving is all about. In this episode, we're going to explore this topic from different angles. First, we'll talk about what creative problem solving actually means and how it's different from just following instructions or using traditional logic. Then we'll look at why it's such an important skill in today's world, not just in work or school, but in everyday life. We'll also dive into the things that block our creativity, things like fear, perfectionism, or that voice in our head that says, "This idea is stupid." And of course, I'll also share some real-life strategies that you can use to start thinking more creatively right now. Along the way, I'll ask you a few questions to help you reflect on your own experiences. This is not just about listening, it's also about growing. So I really encourage you to stay with me until the end of the episode. I promise it's going to be useful, maybe even inspiring, and definitely full of good English that you can understand and use. So take a deep breath, relax, and get ready to think in a new way. Let's unlock your creative mind together. Right here, on Code Your English. What is creative problem solving? So, what exactly is creative problem solving? Let's break it down in a simple but meaningful way. First, a problem is just something that needs to be solved, something that's standing in your way. And creative simply means using your imagination and your ability to think in new or different ways. So when we talk about creative problem solving, we're talking about using fresh ideas, flexible thinking, and sometimes even unusual approaches to find solutions, especially when the usual methods don't work. Now, some people think problem solving always follows a straight path, like step 1, Step 2, Step 3, and then, boom, the answer appears. That kind of thinking is what we call linear problem solving. It's like a math formula. If A plus B equals C, then just follow the rule, and you'll get the answer. And honestly, sometimes life works that way. Like when you follow a recipe to cook a dish, or follow instructions to build a chair. But what about the problems that don't come with clear instructions? What about the ones where you don't even know where to begin? That's where creative problem solving becomes important. It's not about rules, it's about mindset, the way you approach the problem. Instead of just asking, "What's the correct answer?" you start asking, "What are all the possible answers?" You begin to see the problem from more than one angle. You ask yourself, what if I try something completely different? What if the answer isn't outside of me but inside me? What if the problem is not really the problem, but the way I'm looking at it? Let me give you a few examples to help make this more real. Imagine you're trying to plan a family dinner, and the electricity goes out. You can't cook anything. You can't use your oven or microwave. Most people would feel stuck, maybe even give up and cancel the dinner. But what if you get creative? You decide to light candles, use a gas stove or a portable grill, or even make it a fun cold food dinner night with sandwiches and snacks. You turn a problem into a unique memory. That's creative problem solving in everyday life. Or think about work. Let's say you're in charge of a project, but two of your team members are suddenly unavailable. Instead of panicking, you take a step back. You ask, is there a faster way to do this? Can we change the deadline? Can I ask someone from another department for help? You're not just reacting, you're thinking outside the box. You're being flexible and looking for innovative solutions that weren't obvious at the start. Even in relationships, creative problem-solving plays a big role. Let's say you and your friend have a misunderstanding. You've already explained your side, but they're still upset. A typical response might be to argue more or walk away. But creative problem-solving means stepping into their shoes, maybe writing them a letter instead of talking face-to-face, or even changing the environment, inviting them out for coffee instead of continuing the conversation over text. Sometimes, changing the how leads to a better result. You see, creative problem-solving isn't just about being smart. It's about being open. It's about being willing to try, to experiment, to fail, and then try again. It doesn't always mean coming up with a brand new invention or a big wild idea. Often, it's something small, a tiny shift in your perspective, a question you didn't ask before, a new way of combining two ideas. It's about mindset, staying curious instead of stuck, and choosing to be flexible instead of frustrated. And here's something important to remember. You don't have to be an artist, a designer, or an inventor to be creative. We are all creative in different ways. Creativity can show up in how you cook, how you study, how you deal with stress, or how you manage your time. It's not just a talent. It's a skill you can practice and grow. And the more you practice, the more confident you become in solving problems, not just logically, but creatively. So the next time you face a challenge, big or small, try to pause for a moment and ask yourself, is there another way to look at this? What haven't I tried yet? You might be surprised by the answers that come when you give yourself permission to think a little differently. That's the heart of creative problem-solving. Not just solving the problem, but growing as a thinker while doing it. Why it matters more than ever? In the past, life was a little more predictable. People often stayed in the same job for years, sometimes even for their whole life. They followed clear steps: study hard, get a job, build a family, and stay on that path. Problems came, of course, but the solutions were usually known. You could ask someone older, follow tradition, or look for rules to guide you. But today, things are different. The world is moving faster than ever. Technology is changing everything. Jobs disappear and new ones appear overnight. We now live in a world full of constant change. And that's exactly why creative problem-solving matters more than ever. Think about it. Many of the problems we face today have no clear answers. We deal with things like economic shifts, health crises, climate change, new technologies, and even changing ideas about identity and communication. These aren't simple issues with one correct solution. They're complex, messy, and often confusing. That's why we need people who can stay calm, think clearly, and find new ways forward, even when everything feels uncertain. And here's a really important point. Creativity isn't just for so-called creative people. You don't need to be a painter, a musician, or a writer to be creative. Creativity is not only about art, it's about how you respond to challenges. It's about how you make decisions when the usual way doesn't work anymore. A doctor creating a new way to treat a patient, a teacher changing their style to help a struggling student, or a single parent figuring out how to make dinner with just 3 ingredients in the kitchen. These are all acts of creative problem-solving. Let me share a real story. During the pandemic, there was a school teacher in India who lived in a rural area. Her students didn't have internet access at home. No smartphones, no laptops. At first, she didn't know what to do. How could she teach them without technology? But then, she came up with a simple and brilliant idea. Every week, she printed out lessons on paper and gave them to the village shopkeeper. Parents would stop by the shop, collect the papers, and the kids would do their work at home. She also encouraged them to send back answers through short voice messages using a basic mobile phone. It wasn't high-tech, it wasn't perfect, but it worked. The children kept learning, because one teacher refused to give up. That's what creative problem-solving looks like in real life. Stories like this show us something powerful. When resources are limited, our creativity becomes even more valuable. We learn to see possibilities where others only see problems. We learn to build something useful out of very little. And this ability to adapt, to rethink, to reimagine, is becoming one of the most important skills in the 21st century. In fact, many companies today say that creativity is one of the top qualities they look for when hiring new people. Why? Because in a changing world, flexible minds are stronger than fixed knowledge. But this isn't just about work or school. Creative problem-solving also matters in your personal life. Let's say your friend is feeling down, and nothing you say is helping. What do you do? Or imagine you've been trying to save money, but unexpected costs keep coming up. How do you adjust? These situations don't have simple answers. They require you to look at things differently, to ask better questions, to take a step back, and maybe even to try something you've never done before. That's creativity in action. And the good news? You already have the ability to think creatively. You've probably used it many times, maybe without even noticing. Think about a time when you had to fix something using only what was around you. Or when you found a new way to explain an idea to someone. Or when you changed your plan at the last minute and it actually turned out better than expected. These small moments are proof. You can solve problems in creative ways. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you had to figure something out with limited resources or time? Maybe it was at work. Maybe it was at home. Maybe it was just yesterday. Think about how you responded. Did you get frustrated and freeze? Or did you pause, take a breath, and look for a different way? The more you practice creative problem-solving, the easier it becomes. And the truth is, in a world full of unexpected challenges, creative thinking isn't just helpful. It's essential. It gives us hope, strength, and the tools we need to keep moving forward, no matter what comes our way. Mastering creativity, skills and mindsets for modern problem-solving. Creativity is not just about being an artist or coming up with wild ideas. It's a powerful skill we all need in today's fast-changing world. Every day, we face problems that require new ways of thinking and fresh solutions. To master creativity, we need to understand more than just thinking outside the box. We need to explore how our emotions, our relationships with others, our habits, and even how our brain works can help us become better problem solvers. One of the most important parts of creativity is emotional intelligence. This means being aware of our own feelings and understanding the feelings of others. When we solve problems, emotions can either help us or make things harder. For example, if we feel stressed or frustrated, it can be difficult to think clearly or try new ideas. But if we can manage those emotions and stay calm, we can look at the problem more creatively. Emotional intelligence also helps when we work with others. When we recognize how people feel and communicate clearly, teamwork becomes easier and better ideas can flow. So, creativity isn't just about the brain, it's also about the heart. Speaking of working with others, collaboration is another key part of creative problem solving. When different people bring their unique ideas, experiences, and skills together, the results can be amazing. A team can look at a problem from many angles and come up with solutions that one person alone might never think of. Collaboration requires good communication and respect for different opinions. It means listening carefully and being open to changing your own ideas. Sometimes, the best creative moments happen when people challenge each other's thinking in a friendly way. So, creativity is social as well as personal. But creativity is not always easy. Sometimes we try new things and fail. That's where resilience comes in. Resilience means the ability to bounce back after setbacks and keep trying. When we face failure or difficulty, it's normal to feel disappointed or want to give up. But resilient people use these challenges as learning opportunities. They understand that failure is part of the creative process, not the end of it. Being resilient helps us stay motivated and find new ways to approach problems. It keeps our creativity alive, even when things get tough. Another important part of mastering creativity is developing small daily habits that support innovative thinking. Creativity doesn't just happen during special moments or big projects. It grows through consistent practice. This might mean taking time each day to ask questions, explore new ideas, or try new ways of doing things. Simple habits like reading different kinds of books, taking short breaks to clear your mind, or writing down your thoughts can boost creativity. Over time, these small actions help your brain stay flexible and ready for new challenges. So, everyday creativity is about creating space in your life for curiosity and exploration. Finally, it helps to understand a little about how the brain works when we think creatively. Our brain is an amazing organ that can change and grow throughout life, a quality called neuroplasticity. When we learn new things or practice creative thinking, our brain builds new connections and pathways. Sometimes creative ideas come when we let our mind rest, or when we look at problems from a different angle. Scientists say that both focused thinking and relaxed thinking are important for creativity. This means balancing hard work with moments of rest or play. Knowing this can help us develop better habits for creative thinking and remind us to be patient with ourselves. In conclusion, mastering creativity is a combination of many skills and mindsets. It's about managing emotions, working well with others, staying strong after setbacks, building daily habits, and understanding how our brain works. All these parts work together to help us solve problems in new and better ways. If we want to be creative problem solvers in the modern world, we need to develop all of these areas. And the good news is, creativity is not a talent some people have and others don't. It's a skill that anyone can learn and improve with practice and patience. So next time you face a problem, remember it's not just about finding the answer quickly. It's about using your feelings wisely, connecting with others, keeping a positive attitude, creating habits that support your thinking, and giving your brain the chance to grow. That's how you truly master creativity. And that's how you become a modern problem solver. Creative thinking in a connected world. Today, creativity is more connected than ever before. We live in a world where ideas, people, and cultures meet constantly, and technology links us like never before. This connection brings exciting opportunities for creative thinking, but it also creates new challenges. So, how does creativity work in this connected world? How do culture, teamwork, and technology influence the way we solve problems creatively? First, let's think about collaboration. Creativity often happens when people work together. When different minds come together, they bring different experiences, knowledge, and ways of thinking. Imagine a team where people come from different backgrounds or countries. Each person sees the problem from a unique angle. This diversity is a huge advantage. It can lead to new ideas that no one would have thought of alone. But teamwork also requires good communication and respect. Sometimes people disagree or have different ways of working. That's normal, but managing these differences is part of creative collaboration. It means listening carefully, asking questions, and being open to others' ideas, even if they seem unusual at first. When a team works well, creativity can grow and reach new heights. Next, culture plays an important role in creativity. Different cultures have different ways of solving problems and thinking about creativity. In some cultures, creativity is celebrated openly. People are encouraged to be original and try new things, even if they fail. In other cultures, tradition and respect for authority are very important. People might be more careful or prefer to follow established methods. Neither approach is better or worse. They are just different. But in today's connected world, these cultures meet and influence each other. For example, a company might have employees from many countries, each bringing their own cultural approach to problem solving. This mix can create powerful new ideas if everyone feels safe to share and experiment. Understanding cultural differences helps us work better together and be more creative. Now, what about technology? Technology can be both a friend and a challenge for creativity. On one hand, technology gives us amazing tools. We can search for information instantly, connect with people worldwide, and create new things quickly. Technology makes collaboration easier than ever. You can work with someone in another country using video calls or share your ideas with millions through social media. These tools can open doors to creativity that were impossible before. On the other hand, technology can also distract us. Social media, for example, can make our minds busy and restless. Sometimes we feel pressure to keep up with what others are doing instead of focusing on our own creative ideas. So, technology's role depends on how we use it. When we use it mindfully, technology helps us grow creatively. When we let it control us, it can hold us back. To inspire us even more, let's look at some famous creative problem solvers. These are people who changed the world with their ideas. Think about Leonardo da Vinci, who was not just a great artist, but also an inventor and scientist. He looked at the world with curiosity and connected ideas from different fields. Or Marie Curie, who worked through many difficulties to discover new elements and change medicine forever. More recently, Steve Jobs used creativity to develop technology that changed how we live and communicate. These people show us that creativity is about curiosity, persistence, and connecting different ideas. They remind us that creative problem-solving is not just about talent, but about how we think and keep trying. In our connected world, creativity is not just an individual skill. It's about how we interact with others, how we respect and learn from different cultures, and how we use technology wisely. It's about teamwork, curiosity, and openness to new ideas. When we combine these elements, we can solve problems in exciting and original ways. So, as you think about your own creative journey, ask yourself, how can I work better with others? What can I learn from people who think differently? How can I use technology to help my ideas grow? And who inspires me with their creative story? These questions can guide you to be a creative thinker in today's connected world. The creative mind. How we think, feel, and grow. Creativity is a fascinating process. It is not just about having good ideas, but also about how our mind works, how we manage our feelings, and how we grow through experience. To become better creative problem solvers, it helps to understand what happens inside our brain, how our emotions influence our thinking, and why some people seem to bounce back stronger from challenges. Let's take a closer look at the creative mind, how we think, feel, and grow. First, let's talk about the science behind creativity. Our brain is an incredible organ that allows us to connect ideas, imagine new possibilities, and solve problems. When we think creatively, different parts of the brain work together. The part responsible for logic and planning helps us organize our thoughts. At the same time, the part linked to emotions and imagination helps us see new patterns and ideas. Scientists also tell us about a concept called neuroplasticity. This means our brain can change and grow throughout our lives. When we learn new skills or try new ways of thinking, our brain builds new connections. This is why creativity is not just something you are born with. It is a skill you can develop with practice and patience. But creativity is not just about brain activity. Our emotions play a huge role too. This is where emotional intelligence comes in. Emotional intelligence means understanding and managing your own feelings and understanding the feelings of others. When we face a problem, feelings like stress, fear, or frustration can block our creativity. We might feel too anxious to try new ideas or too afraid of failing. However, if we can recognize these feelings and control them, we create space for creative thinking. Emotional intelligence also helps when we work with others. Understanding different feelings allows us to communicate better and find solutions that respect everyone's needs. So, creativity grows best when our emotions are balanced, not ignored or avoided. Now, even with a flexible brain and emotional control, creativity can be challenging because setbacks and failures happen to everyone. No creative person succeeds without facing difficulties. This is why resilience, the ability to recover and keep going after failure, is a key part of the creative mind. When you are resilient, you see failures not as the end, but as learning experiences. You ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or, how can I try a different way? Resilience helps you stay motivated and open-minded. It turns challenges into opportunities for growth. This mindset is essential for anyone who wants to keep improving their creative skills. Besides resilience, there are simple things we can do every day to keep our creativity alive. Developing small habits is very powerful. For example, you can take a few minutes each day to write down your ideas, even if they seem strange or unfinished. You can read about topics outside your usual interests to give your brain new information and perspectives. Taking short breaks to relax or walking outside can also help your mind stay fresh. When you practice curiosity and exploration daily, your brain stays flexible and ready to make new connections. These habits do not require a lot of time or effort, but over weeks and months, they add up and boost your creative thinking naturally. Understanding how our brain works, managing our emotions, staying resilient after setbacks, and building small creative habits are all part of developing a strong creative mind. When we combine these elements, creativity becomes not just a talent, but a way of thinking and living. It helps us solve problems more easily, enjoy learning, and find new opportunities in life. So, the next time you face a challenge or feel stuck, remember, your brain can grow and change. Your emotions can be your allies. Setbacks are chances to learn, and small daily habits keep your creativity strong. This is how we think, feel, and grow. And this is the heart of the creative mind. Unlocking innovation, tools, stories, and strategies. Innovation is something many people think is only for inventors or geniuses. But in reality, innovation is something everyone can unlock. It's about finding new ways to solve problems, improve our lives, and make things better. Whether you work in a big company, study at school, or manage your daily routine, innovation can help you be more creative and effective. So how do we unlock innovation? What tools, stories, and strategies can guide us? Let's explore this together. One of the best ways to understand innovation is by looking at stories of famous creative problem solvers. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He didn't just invent the light bulb in one try. He made thousands of attempts before finding the right way to make a working bulb. When people asked him about his failures, Edison said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This mindset of persistence and learning from mistakes is key to innovation. Or think about Marie Curie, who discovered radium and polonium. She worked under difficult conditions, but her curiosity and dedication changed medicine forever. And more recently, Steve Jobs used innovation not only to create new technology, but to change how we communicate and live. These stories remind us that innovation is about curiosity, persistence, and trying again even when it's hard. But innovation doesn't only happen in big moments. It grows every day through small habits. You don't need to invent something completely new to be creative. Simple habits like asking questions, "Why is this done this way?" Or, "What if we tried a different approach?" can open doors to new ideas. Another habit is to keep a notebook or phone app for your ideas. Sometimes a small thought can grow into a big innovation later. Also, giving yourself time to explore different interests, read widely, or take short breaks helps your brain stay flexible. Even talking with friends or colleagues about problems can give you fresh perspectives. These small habits build a creative mindset and prepare you for bigger, innovative moments. When we talk about innovation today, we cannot ignore the role of technology. Technology is a powerful tool that helps creativity in many ways. It allows us to find information quickly, connect with people all over the world, and create things faster. For example, graphic designers use software to bring ideas to life, and engineers use simulations to test new inventions before building them. Technology opens new doors and makes collaboration easier. However, technology can also be a challenge. Sometimes it distracts us with constant notifications or makes us compare ourselves to others. It can create pressure to always be on and productive. So, technology is a friend when used wisely, but can be a foe if it controls our time and focus. Being aware of this helps us use technology to unlock innovation without losing our creativity. Another important factor in innovation is collaboration, working together with others. Innovation rarely happens alone. When people come together with different skills, experiences, and ideas, they can create solutions no one would think of alone. Collaboration means listening carefully, respecting different views, and building on each other's ideas. It also means being open to feedback and willing to change your approach. Good collaboration creates a safe space for creativity, where everyone feels free to share, experiment, and learn. Many successful companies today focus on team creativity because they understand that the best ideas come from working together. So, unlocking innovation is about combining many things: learning from inspiring stories, building daily creative habits, using technology mindfully, and collaborating with others. Innovation is not a magic gift, but a skill you develop over time. When you stay curious, persistent, and open, and when you use the right tools and support, innovation becomes part of your everyday life. Next time you face a challenge, try to remember these strategies. Think about the innovators who didn't give up. Practice small, creative habits. Use technology as your helper, not your boss. And reach out to others to share ideas and build solutions together. Innovation is waiting for you to unlock it. What blocks creativity? So now that we understand why creative problem-solving is so important, let's talk about something we all experience at some point: the things that block our creativity. Because, let's be honest, we're not always in the right state of mind to think creatively. Sometimes, even when we want to, we just feel stuck. Our minds stop flowing, ideas seem far away, and no matter how hard we try, nothing feels fresh or original. So why does that happen? Let's start with what's happening inside us. One of the biggest creativity killers is fear of failure. This fear often sounds like a small voice in your head saying, "What if this doesn't work?" Or, "What if people laugh at me?" That fear can stop you from even trying. It puts up a wall before your imagination can even take a step forward. The problem is, when you're afraid to fail, you stop experimenting. And creativity needs experimentation. It needs trial and error. If you're only willing to do things you know will work, you won't take the risks that lead to breakthroughs. Connected to fear of failure is something called perfectionism. Perfectionism is the belief that everything has to be done perfectly. No mistakes, no mess, no flaws. And while it might sound like a good quality, perfectionism often creates pressure that actually makes it harder to think clearly. You spend more time worrying about being right than exploring new ideas. You're so focused on the end result that you forget to enjoy the process. And creativity needs freedom, not fear. When we give ourselves permission to create something imperfect, that's when interesting ideas start to appear. Another major block is self-doubt. This is when you don't trust your own thoughts or believe in your own value. You might think, "I'm not creative," or "Other people have better ideas than I do." But here's the truth. Everyone doubts themselves sometimes. Even famous artists, musicians, writers, and scientists. The difference is, they don't let that doubt control them. Creativity isn't about being the best. It's about being brave enough to try. We also get blocked by rigid thinking. That's when we hold on too tightly to rules, habits, or what we already know. It's like driving the same road every day, even when traffic is terrible, just because it's familiar. But creativity is like finding a new road, one that might be faster, more scenic, or just more fun. When our thinking becomes rigid, we stop asking questions. We stay inside our comfort zone, where everything feels safe, but nothing new can grow. It's like sitting in a small room and wondering why you can't see the stars. Sometimes, you have to step outside. Now, let's talk about external blocks. The things around us that make creativity harder. One big one is the pressure to always be right. In school, at work, and even in families, we're often taught that mistakes are bad. Think about it. In many classrooms, students are punished for wrong answers, instead of being encouraged to explore different ones. This kind of system doesn't leave much room for curiosity or creative risk. It teaches people to follow the rules, not to question them. But many great discoveries in history came from people who asked unusual questions, made mistakes, or failed many times before finding success. There's also judgment from others and from ourselves. Maybe your teacher once told you your idea was silly. Maybe someone laughed at your accent, your art, your opinion. Even small moments like that can plant seeds of doubt. Over time, you start editing your ideas before you even speak them. You think, better stay quiet than say something stupid. But the problem is, when we silence our ideas, we also silence our creativity. We stop before we even begin. All of these blocks, fear, perfectionism, doubt, pressure, judgment, are like mental traffic jams. You're sitting in your car with the engine running, ready to go, but you can't move. Ideas are waiting behind the red light, and your inner critic is holding the stop sign. But creativity needs movement. It needs green lights. It needs space to breathe. So how do we clear the road? The first step is to notice the blocks. Just recognizing them can make a big difference. Ask yourself, am I afraid to fail right now? Am I trying to be perfect? Am I worried about what others will think? Once you name the block, it becomes easier to push past it. You can remind yourself, mistakes are part of the process. Creativity isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask new questions. One of the most powerful things you can do is to change the story you tell yourself. Instead of saying, I'm not creative, try saying, I'm learning how to think creatively. Instead of thinking, this has to be perfect, say, let's just see where this goes. This simple shift in language can open doors in your mind. It's like turning that red light into a green one. So the next time you feel stuck, remember, the block isn't permanent. It's just a sign that something needs to shift in your mindset, your environment, or even your expectations. And the good news is, you already have everything inside you to make that shift. Sometimes all it takes is a deep breath, a little courage, and a willingness to begin, even if you don't know exactly how it will end. Shifting your mindset. Now that we've talked about the blocks that get in the way of creative thinking, it's time to talk about how we can move past those blocks. And it all starts with your mindset. What is mindset? It's the way you think about yourself, your challenges, and the world around you. It's like the lens through which you see every problem, every success, and every failure. And believe it or not, this mindset can either open doors or close them. That's why shifting your mindset is one of the most powerful steps toward becoming a more creative problem solver. There are two main types of mindset: fixed mindset and growth mindset. These ideas became popular thanks to the work of a psychologist named Carol Dweck. Let me explain them in simple terms. If you have a fixed mindset, you believe that your abilities, intelligence, and talents are something you're born with, and that they can't really change. People with a fixed mindset often say things like, I'm just not good at math, or I'm not a creative person. When they face a problem, they might think, this is too hard, and give up quickly. They avoid challenges because they don't want to fail. To them, failure means they're not smart or capable, and that's scary. On the other hand, a growth mindset is the belief that you can grow, improve, and learn over time, even if something is difficult now. People with a growth mindset say things like, I'm not good at this yet, or this is a challenge, but I can figure it out. They see effort as a path to mastery, and they see mistakes as part of learning. When they fail, they don't see it as the end. They see it as a beginning, a chance to grow. So, which mindset do you usually use when things get tough? Be honest with yourself. When something doesn't go the way you planned, do you say, "Why is this happening to me?" Or do you ask, "What can I learn from this?" That small change from "why me" to "what now" is what we call reframing. Reframing means changing the way you look at a problem so that it gives you power instead of stress. Imagine you're trying to learn a new skill, like public speaking or coding. At first, it's frustrating. Maybe you make mistakes. Maybe people criticize you. A fixed mindset would say, "I guess I'm just not made for this." But a growth mindset would say, "Okay, that didn't go perfectly, but what went right? What can I do better next time?" Reframing a problem doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means accepting that the problem is real, but choosing to see it as a challenge, not a dead end. It's like standing at the bottom of a mountain. A fixed mindset looks up and says, "That's too high. I'll never make it." A growth mindset looks up and says, "That's high. Yes, but I'll take it step by step." This change in thinking can completely transform how you solve problems. When your mindset shifts, you become more open to trying new strategies. You become more willing to take risks, to ask questions, to explore strange or unusual ideas. That's where creativity begins, not with perfect answers, but with curious minds. Think about the times in your life when you gave up on something too quickly. Was it because you truly couldn't do it? Or because you believed you couldn't? And on the other hand, think about a time when you surprised yourself, when you did something you didn't think you could do. What made that possible? Most likely, it was your mindset. You didn't quit. You kept going. You saw a possibility, not just a problem. This shift is especially important in today's world, where everything changes so quickly. Technology, language, careers, they all keep evolving. So, if your mindset stays fixed, it's easy to feel left behind. But if your mindset is flexible, if it's ready to learn, grow, and adapt, then you're ready for almost anything. I know it's not always easy. When we feel tired, anxious, or frustrated, it's natural to fall back into old thinking patterns. But here's the good news. Mindset is not something you either have or don't have. It's something you practice. Every time you face a problem, you get to decide how you respond. You can react with fear, or you can respond with curiosity. You can shut down, or you can ask, "What's another way to see this?" So let me ask you now, how do you usually respond when things don't go your way? Do you freeze? Do you blame others? Or do you take a breath and look for a new path forward? Try this the next time you face a challenge. Pause for just a second and ask yourself a different question. Instead of, "Why is this so hard?" ask, "What can I try that I haven't tried yet?" Instead of, "I'm not good at this," try, "How can I get better at this?" These small changes in your inner dialogue can make a huge difference in your outer results. The truth is, problems will always be part of life. But the way we think about them, the way we frame them in our minds, can either limit us or empower us. So if you want to grow, if you want to think more creatively, and if you want to solve problems more effectively, start with your mindset. Shift the way you think, and everything else will begin to shift too. Real-life strategies for creative thinking. So now you might be thinking, "Okay, I understand how important creative problem-solving is. I've looked at my mindset, but what can I actually do to think more creatively?" Great question, and the answer is quite a lot. Creative thinking isn't just something that happens in big moments. It's something you can practice every day, even in small situations. There are tools, real, simple strategies that can help you come up with better ideas, find solutions faster, and even enjoy the process of solving problems more. Let's start with a classic: brainstorming. You've probably heard of this before. It means coming up with as many ideas as possible without judging them right away. You just let the ideas flow, even if some of them seem silly or impossible at first. The key to good brainstorming is not to stop yourself. Don't ask, "Is this a good idea?" Just ask, "What are all the possible ideas?" The goal is to get out of your usual thinking patterns. You can always evaluate later. But first, let the storm begin. Then there's mind mapping. This is great when your ideas feel scattered. You start with one word or problem in the middle of a page, for example, time management, and then you draw lines out to different related thoughts. Waking up early, to-do list, study blocks, phone distractions. From there, you keep branching out. Soon, you'll see how one idea connects to another. It's a visual way to organize thoughts and spark new ones. It helps you break things down into smaller pieces, which makes complex problems feel more manageable. Another fun method is asking what-if questions. This is where you let your imagination run wild. What if I could only solve this problem using one hand? What if I had to explain it to a 5-year-old? What if the opposite of this idea is actually better? These questions challenge your brain to move out of the usual path. It's like walking through a new part of the city. You suddenly see things you never noticed before. There's also something called reverse thinking. This one is powerful. Instead of asking, "How do I solve this problem?" you ask, "How could I cause this problem?" Or, "How could I make this situation worse?" It sounds strange at first, but it works. For example, if you're trying to improve customer service, you ask, "How would I make a customer really unhappy?" Maybe you'd ignore them, take a long time to respond, or give unclear answers. Now just do the opposite, and you have your solution. Sometimes, understanding the problem backwards shows you the right way forward. And finally, there's lateral thinking. This is about solving problems using an indirect or creative approach. Instead of going from A to B in a straight line, lateral thinking looks for unusual paths. It might involve combining two unrelated ideas or changing the environment where a problem happens. One way to practice this is to challenge assumptions. For example, people used to think you had to go to a physical store to buy something. But someone questioned that, and now we have online shopping. That's lateral thinking in real life. Let me show you how this can work in a story. Imagine a woman named Layla who runs a small bakery. One day, she notices that her customers are coming in less often. She's worried. She tries the usual solutions, posts more on social media, offers discounts, but nothing changes. She starts to feel stuck. Then she decides to take a step back. She sits down with a notebook and starts brainstorming. She writes down every idea that comes to mind. New cake flavors, loyalty cards, free samples, special events. She even writes, "Have a dog day where people can bring their pets." Some of the ideas seem crazy, but she doesn't stop. She then uses mind mapping to see which ideas are connected. She realizes many of her best ideas are about creating community, making her bakery a place where people want to stay, not just buy and leave. She picks one idea: a weekly tea and talk event. Every Friday afternoon, she offers free tea and opens space for people to chat, share stories, and meet new people. Within a month, her bakery is full again. People come not just for the cakes, but for the experience. It wasn't a big marketing plan. It wasn't a complicated strategy. It was a creative solution that came from giving herself space to explore and think differently. It was trial and error, yes, but it worked. This is the heart of real creative thinking. It's not magic. It's not genius. It's about slowing down, being curious, asking new questions, and staying open. And the good news is, you can use these tools in small daily moments. Stuck on what to cook tonight? Try a what-if recipe with only what's in your fridge. Can't concentrate? Mind map what's taking up your mental space. Having a conflict with someone? Use reverse thinking. Ask yourself how you might be making it worse, and then do the opposite. The more you practice these tools, the more natural they become. Over time, you train your brain to look at challenges with a fresh perspective. You learn to take a step back, see the bigger picture, and then break it down into smaller, solvable parts. And even when things don't work right away, that's okay. That's part of trial and error. That's how growth happens. So the next time you're stuck, don't panic. Don't force the answer. Try one of these strategies. Let the ideas come, even the silly ones. Because often, the solution you need is hiding just beyond your usual way of thinking. And all it takes is one creative step to find it. The power of curiosity and play. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you allowed yourself to experiment without knowing the outcome? When was the last time you did something just for fun, just to explore, without worrying if it would work, if it would be useful, or if someone might judge you for it? For many of us, especially as adults, the answer might be a long time ago. And that's a problem, because when we stop playing, we stop exploring. And when we stop exploring, we block one of the most powerful tools we have for creative thinking: curiosity. As children, we are naturally curious. We ask questions all the time. We try things, break things, rebuild them, and try again. A child doesn't need to be told how to be curious. It's in their nature. They play with blocks, not just to build something, but to see what happens when it falls. They draw without fear of judgment. They mix colors just to see what new color they get. In short, children play with ideas. And that's actually one of the best forms of creative problem-solving. But something happens as we grow older. We're taught to follow rules, to get things right, to be efficient, to be serious. School systems in many parts of the world reward correct answers, not original ones. In many cultures, people are praised for being careful and logical, but not always for being imaginative. Slowly, we begin to believe that play is for children, and that curiosity is something we should hide or control. As adults, we often feel pressure to look like we know what we're doing, even when we don't. And so, we stop asking questions, we stop experimenting, we stop playing. But creativity needs curiosity. Without curiosity, we never ask, what if? Without play, we never discover new possibilities by accident. Some of the most brilliant discoveries in history happened because someone was simply exploring, not trying to be perfect, but just trying something different. Post-it notes, for example, were invented when a scientist was trying to create a strong glue, and accidentally created a weak one that stuck lightly to surfaces. Instead of throwing the result away, he stayed curious. He played with the idea, and ended up changing how we take notes around the world. Even in science, medicine, and technology, innovation starts with curiosity. Every breakthrough begins with someone wondering, why does this happen? Or, what if we tried this instead? If those people had only followed the usual steps, they never would have discovered anything new. The same goes for artists, entrepreneurs, and even teachers. They try something different. They play with the unknown. And sometimes, they discover something great. But curiosity doesn't live in pressure. It grows in freedom. In safe, playful environments, people are more willing to take risks, make mistakes, and keep going. That's why some companies, like Google, actually give employees time to play, time to work on personal projects that don't have to lead to anything. Some of their biggest successes came from this open time. It's not a waste. It's an investment in creativity. Now, it's important to understand that different cultures see creativity in different ways. In some countries, being creative is seen as a strength, something to be celebrated and encouraged. People are pushed to express themselves, think outside the box, and share new ideas, even if those ideas are strange at first. In other cultures, creativity may be viewed with more caution. There can be a stronger focus on tradition, respect for authority, and sticking to what is known. In these environments, creativity still exists, but it may grow more slowly or in more private ways. Neither approach is right or wrong, they're just different. But wherever you live, and whatever background you come from, you have the power to stay curious. You have the power to keep exploring, to play with ideas, and to try things even when you're not sure what will happen. So how do we bring more curiosity and play into our daily lives? It doesn't have to be complicated. Start small. Read something outside your usual interests. Ask a why question instead of giving a quick answer. Try a new recipe and add your own twist. If you're learning English, don't just memorize words. Play with them. Create silly sentences. Make a comic strip. Talk to yourself in different voices. Yes, it sounds strange, but it works. It builds flexibility in your brain. And most importantly, give yourself permission to experiment without knowing the outcome. That's where real growth happens. In the unknown, in the playful space between "I have no idea what I'm doing" and "Wow, that actually worked." So again, I ask, when was the last time you allowed yourself to experiment? Just for the joy of it. Not to succeed, not to impress, not to be right, but simply to explore, to discover, and maybe, just maybe, to create something new? The answers you're looking for often live in the questions you haven't asked yet. So, stay curious, be playful, and trust that your best ideas will find you when you stop forcing them and start exploring instead. Practice, progress, and patience. Let's be honest for a moment. We live in a fast world. Everything around us seems to move quickly. We want quick answers, quick results, and quick success. We scroll, we click, we move on. And in that fast-paced environment, it's easy to feel like if something doesn't work right away, we've failed. But here's the truth. Real change, especially creative change, takes time. And the three things that make it possible are practice, progress, and patience. Let's start with practice. Think about anything you've ever learned in your life. Riding a bicycle, learning a new language, cooking a new recipe. None of those things happened in a single day. You had to try, fail, adjust, and try again. That's what practice is. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about showing up again and again, even when it's hard, even when the results are small, even when you feel like you're not moving forward. In creative problem solving, practice means giving yourself chances to experiment. Not once, but regularly. You build the skill by using it, by testing ideas, by learning from what works and what doesn't. And that leads us to the second word, progress. Not perfection. Progress. Small steps count. In fact, most great inventions, stories, and solutions didn't happen in one big moment. They happened through trial and error, through small improvements over time. There's a beautiful quote by Confucius that says, "It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop." And that's something I remind myself of all the time. Because when you keep moving, even slowly, you're still moving. You're building knowledge. You're collecting experience. You're getting stronger. And that's worth celebrating. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you're trying to become more creative in solving problems at work. You read books, you watch videos, maybe you even try a new technique like brainstorming or reverse thinking. But nothing seems to work right away. You still feel stuck. You might think, maybe I'm just not good at this. But what if you're judging the process too soon? What if your brain is learning in the background? And what you need isn't a faster solution, but a little more time. You see, creative thinking grows like a plant. You don't plant a seed in the morning and expect a flower by the afternoon. You water it. You give it sunlight. You wait. And eventually, something amazing starts to grow. But only if you're patient. And that brings us to our third word, patience. This one is hard for many of us. We want results. We want proof. And when things don't happen fast enough, we feel like giving up. But creative work doesn't follow a strict timeline. Sometimes, your best ideas will arrive after you've already tried 10 things that didn't work. That doesn't mean you've wasted time. It means you're going through the process of experimentation. Every failed attempt teaches you something. Every wrong turn shows you a part of the map. You're not lost. You're learning. And this is where the idea of persistence becomes so important. Persistence means continuing to move forward even when it's difficult. It means not giving up just because progress is slow. It means showing up to practice, even on the days when you don't feel inspired. Because progress is not always visible. Sometimes you're growing in ways you can't even see yet. Building confidence, building discipline, building habits. Let's say you're learning English and you're trying to speak more fluently. One day, you try to have a conversation and you forget a word. You feel embarrassed. The next day, you try again, and the words don't come out smoothly. It feels like you're failing, but you're not. You're training your brain. You're getting stronger with every attempt. It's not about speaking perfectly. It's about speaking consistently. And eventually, the fluency comes. Not suddenly, but gradually. Like the rising sun, not a lightning bolt. The same goes for any creative journey. Don't focus only on the result. Focus on the effort. Celebrate the small wins, even if they seem tiny. Maybe you asked a better question today. Maybe you stayed calm during a challenge. Maybe you thought of a new idea, even if you didn't use it. These are signs of progress. These are signs that you're developing the habits of a creative thinker. And one more thing, don't compare your progress to someone else's. Everyone moves at their own pace. What looks like an overnight success usually comes from years of quiet effort. So be kind to yourself. Be patient with your journey. And trust that the path you're on, with all its ups and downs, is leading somewhere meaningful. So today, if you're feeling stuck or frustrated, remind yourself of this. Practice brings progress, and progress takes patience. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're learning. You're growing. And every small step forward counts. So take a breath, smile, and keep going. You're doing better than you think. So as we come to the end of today's episode, let's take a moment to look back at everything we've talked about. We've explored what creative problem-solving really means. Not just being artistic or clever, but finding new, useful ways to respond to life's challenges. We talked about why creativity is more important than ever in today's fast-changing world, and how real-life problems often don't have simple or obvious answers. That's exactly why learning to think differently, to explore new angles, and to stay open to new ideas is such a powerful skill, not only for your job or studies, but for your whole life. We also looked at what blocks creativity. We talked about fear of failure, perfectionism, self-doubt, and the pressure to always be right. These are things we all experience. And the good news is, once you notice them, you can begin to move past them. Shifting your mindset, especially from fixed thinking to a growth mindset, is a huge part of that journey. When you believe that you can grow, that you can improve, and that mistakes are just part of learning, you create space for real creativity to grow. Then we explored practical strategies, tools you can actually use in your daily life. Things like brainstorming, mind mapping, what-if questions, reverse thinking, and lateral thinking. These methods don't require special training. You can start using them today, at work, at school, even at home when dealing with everyday problems. We also talked about the importance of curiosity and play. These aren't just fun extras. They're essential for keeping your mind flexible, open, and creative. Adults need play and exploration too, not just children. And finally, we talked about 3 words that are easy to forget in a fast-moving world: practice, progress, and patience. These 3 things are key if you want to build lasting creative habits. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stay in the process. Keep showing up, keep experimenting, and keep believing that growth takes time, because it does. So now, I want to invite you to reflect on something. What's one area in your life that could benefit from more creative thinking? Maybe it's how you handle stress. Maybe it's how you manage your time. Maybe it's a relationship, a work project, or even your English learning journey. Think about something that feels stuck, something you've been doing the same way for a long time. What would happen if you looked at it differently? What new questions could you ask? What small experiment could you try? And here's your challenge, your action step for the week. Take one creative action. It doesn't have to be big or perfect. It just has to be different. Try solving a problem in a new way. Ask someone for their perspective. Change your routine. Draw your idea instead of writing it. Talk through a challenge out loud. Let yourself explore. Let yourself play. Even the smallest creative step can open new possibilities. Before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you, truly, for spending this time with me today. I know your time is valuable, and I hope this episode gave you something meaningful to think about. I hope it encouraged you, challenged you, and reminded you that creativity is something you already have inside you, something you can grow and use to make your life richer, more flexible, and more fulfilling. If you enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, I would love to hear from you. Please take a moment to share your thoughts or feedback. What did you learn? What stood out to you? And what topics would you like us to explore in future episodes? You can leave a comment, send a message, or even recommend this episode to a friend who could use a little creative spark. And finally, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing or following the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. There's more great content on the way, always designed to help you improve your English and grow personally at the same time. Until next time, stay curious, stay patient, and most of all, stay creative.